This is Tech Tuesday, where we shine the spotlight on a trending theme in the world of technology and gain a better understanding of where trends are leading in the world of tech investment. This is Tech Tuesday, presented by the Canadian Securities Exchange. Thank you to everyone online for joining us live today for this week's edition of Tech Tuesday. Today's session, Precision Medical Tech. Presented by the CSE, the Exchange for Entrepreneurs, and the world's fastest growing small to mid-cap stock exchange over the past 15 years. Today's episode is sponsored by US Angels. We're pleased to have two companies today, and trust me, we only needed two. Jeff Amaker, CEO of Tiburay Inc., Will Plishker, CEO of IGI Technologies. Mark Francis is this week's moderator, and this represents today's lineup. The objective in running Tech Tuesday is twofold. First, for companies to gain visibility and traction on an accessible platform. The second is to inform capital markets players and participants about the types of companies in the tech space while also providing new knowledge of what is happening in the world of precision medicine. For you, the attendees, we do ask that you share your ideas and any possible funding and feedback that you may have, as well as potential strategic relationships. You can find their contact information to the right on the profile box, or you can contact the CSE, www.thecse.com, myself or Mark Francis or any CSE team member. Some housekeeping matters. If images aren't clear or the pictures are incomplete, please check your bandwidth, refresh your screen, call IT, or go to a different platform as we are broadcasting on all available social media platforms. Well, not all the big ones. This presentation is for information purposes only and is not a solicitation to make an investment in either shares or debt or to buy and sell stock. First off, William Plishker, CEO and co-founder of IGI Medical Technologies. He is an engineer, he is an entrepreneur, and he has spent over 10 years focused on medical imaging processing on high-performance computing platforms, working with leading medical institutions such as Johns Hopkins, Brigham, and Women's and Children's National Hospital. He received his Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Engineering from Georgia Tech, Atlanta, in 2000 and has a PhD degree in Electrical Engineering from the University of California, Berkeley. Wow, that's there's so much more, but we're going to get to the company. IGI Technologies is a Maryland-based startup delivering high-speed image registration solutions to clinicians. They focus on seamless automatic image fusion for image-guided interventional, which of course is what IGI stands for. But you don't want to hear from me. You want to hear from William. So over to you.
Hi, everybody. My name's Will Plishker. I'm the CEO of IGI Technologies, and I'm excited today to be sharing with you our solution for revealing invisible lesions to interventional radiologists. So we improve care and we save money. Today, I'm going to be talking about IGT Fusion, our FDA-cleared patented solution to image fusion for a fast-growing market in cancer therapy, which represents $1 billion market potential. So let's talk about interventional radiology first. Needle-based procedures like ablations are great for treating cancer. For a patient, they mean quicker recovery than surgery. Often they are outpatient care. And for a medical system, a more cost-effective way of treating cancer. Now, the problem with needle-based procedures is getting the needle to the right place and then killing whatever it's supposed to kill completely. So a recent study suggested that 15% of all lesions treated through percutaneous ablations recur. And that's because of misplaced needles, which is largely due to bad visualization. And you can appreciate that in something like this shot, where there is a lesion to be treated, but no matter what I do at the window levels, there's just no distinction between the healthy tissue and the malignant tissue in this procedural imaging. And consider this is just one slice of dozens that may or may not contain the lesion. And ineffective treatment is the reason that ablations are not used more for care. There is pre-procedural imaging that clearly shows the lesion. In this case, we have a PET, which was taken on a different scanner, but it clearly shows where that malignant lesion is in the liver. But because it was taken on a different day with the patient in a different position, and maybe there have even been changes in the patient over time, it doesn't align with the procedural image. So the Interventional radiology in this case has to mentally correlate the target that they see in the pre-procedural image with the needle that they're seeing in their procedural image. And that can work, but it's subjective, it's time-consuming, and it's a non-ideal way of approaching the problem. IGT Fusion addresses these issues by creating a single fused image that shows the needle and the lesion accurately by correcting for patient position and any nonlinear deformations. Better pictures mean better treatment, faster treatment, less radiation, and all with no change to workflow. IGT Fusion is a software-based solution that can operate as a standalone or as a software module in a larger system. It's covered by patents, it's already FDA cleared, and we have active installations. And at this point, we've run over 100 cases through the system. We're labeled for any anatomy and can accept MRIs, PET, CTs with and without contrast. And one of the key features of IGT Fusion is that it runs autonomously. So while the procedure is going on, when the patient's on the table and time is of the essence, IGT Fusion presents a fusion image automatically to the clinician during the procedure. So the secret to how we do this is with IGT Fusion is with a GPU accelerated machine learning based engine that takes seconds to produce a registration. So Raj Shekhar and I, the other founder of IGI Technologies, developed this algorithm and its implementation based on over a decade of research sponsored by NIH. And what separates this from our competition, what enables its autonomous function, is the way it maps to a GPU. It takes no shortcuts in quality, and it tries thousands of candidate transformations before determining which the best one is, and then using that to produce a fusion to present to a user. This technology is what enables IGT Fusion to deliver better treatment, like in this case, where there is a lesion that is not visible in the CT image that's being used on the day of the procedure. And what you see on the left-hand side of the screen is what a clinician would normally be working on for this case, taking whatever pre-procedural image and mentally correlating. And this is especially tough in this case, which is a lesion that's located in the bone, because this patient, their pre-procedural image was taken with them lying on their back. The procedural image was done with them lying on their belly because of how they have to get access to the lesion. And even though this is in a bone, something that's rigid in the body, switching from your back to your belly causes lots of subtle changes in your body, including tilting of the hips. And in that case, it means that the original pre-procedural image is sliced in a different way. It requires them to reason in 3D about where that lesion is. So IGT Fusion simplifies all this by producing the image in the center, and then finally with the needle on the right, by automatically correcting for all of those nonlinearities and presenting to the user something that's now clear as day. You can see where that hotspot is in the bone. And I can tell you this was used in the clinic, and this was a hit the first time, I think in large part because IGT Fusion was in play. So results like that have generated a number of testimonials from our active installations, including some recent recognition in the form of abstracts, tweets, and LinkedIn postings from places like Brigham and Women's and George Washington Hospital, and also Miami Baptist. So these end user documented experience have given us what we need to build a protocol for an end user outcomes-based study. Now, the non-pharma cancer treatment market is a $40 billion market. And right now, interventional radiology has a small share of that. But with enabling technologies like ours, there are plenty of ablatable lesions that could put it on par with surgery and radiotherapy, potentially a $10 billion market. About 20% of the sales in interventional radiology are software sales, and typically they accompany a hardware purchase. So about half of the software that's being used on these systems goes towards things like advanced visualization, like Fusion. And then going from the other direction, conservatively just putting 2 IGT Fusions in each treatment center, we can come up with about the same market size. And the market dynamics are really working in our favor. Cancer's on the rise. The IR market is one of the fastest growing segments within cancer treatment at 13% CAGR. And In particular, there is a rise in cancer, particularly in liver cancer, which is where we provide a lot of value, where a lot of these invisible lesions occur. So that's an ideal organ for IGT fusion to provide value. And so I think we're in a great position to be able to go catch this fast growing, potentially large market. So to go to market, we're starting with a SaaS model to establish recurring revenue. Being paid per case works well with the CPT code reimbursement in that there is a code that we can use. We'll build on this revenue by doing CapEx sales model, opportunistically accompanying with other vendors as software modules. And we expect steady revenue growth, but it'll really take off when we complete an outcomes-based study, which is what we are really planning for this next phase of the company. That will demonstrate better efficacy, taking that 15% recurrence number down to a comparable number with surgery, making it more of an option for frontline care with more patients and enabling that explosive growth into interventional radiology. The other benefits of going with SaaS model is because we can provide higher valuation towards exit. So just giving a little bit of a timeline here, we started with non-dilutive NIH funding to do our technical development, to work through our algorithms, get FDA clearance, to get our IP covered. And we did a seed round a couple of years ago in order to productize, to make all that technology into an actual product, to get it deployed. We have these 6 active clinical installations, been present at trade show, and get some pilot publications going on our clinical endpoints. Now we're in the perfect position to be able to do this definitive study for outcomes, and then to really ramp up on these active installations to turn them into revenue generating sites and get some of the discussions that we've have going on with strategic partners to get ourselves fully integrated and deployed with some of their solutions. We've got the perfect team for bringing this to market. So Raj and I are technical in our background. We are the ones that developed this technology. We worked with clinicians from the beginning to make sure that this was something that we were building that had clinical value. And that has really paid dividends for us as we've gotten to our active installations. And we have been fortunate enough to add sales and business and entrepreneurial experience to our team as well. So I think we're in the perfect spot to be able to deliver this kind of solution to the market. So we're excited about the next phase that we're entering into. We're going to be generating a lot of value with this next round that we're raising. And with revenue generations, partnership, international presence, ultimately exit is where we're driving towards. We think this is going to be a really exciting couple of years.
Thanks for that, William. Next up, we have Jeff Amaker. Jeff started his career as a design engineer and systems engineer at the Lockheed Missiles and Space Company. He then spent 28 years at Varian Medical Systems, the market leader in radiation therapy treatment systems. He managed, developed projects for new treatment machines, led the worldwide engineering team, and built the treatment planning business from infancy to plus $250 million. It was very highly profitable. It was market-leading business. He left Varian to find a successful startup, which he sold, so that he could join Tiburay as its CEO. What is Tiburay? Tiburay is an early-stage company developing a new radiation therapy system that will treat cancer patients in a fraction of a second, resulting in dramatically reduced collateral damage to normal tissue, leading to better outcomes.
Hi, I'm Jeff Amaker, CEO of Tiburay, and I'm excited to tell you about a breakthrough in technology that we have that's going to dramatically improve radiation oncology and cure lots of cancer patients. So let's start with some numbers. What's the significance of 1 out of 2 and 1 out of 3? 1 out of 2 men and 1 out of 3 women will get cancer in their lifetimes. Of those, 60% in the developed world will get radiation therapy. There's a problem. Radiation therapy treatment is too slow. And because it's too slow, the tumor actually has time to move around. And a moving tumor, we treat larger volumes of normal healthy tissue to deal with a tumor and do more damage to the normal tissue. It also turns out that while your slow treatment is happening, the radiation is burning your normal tissue. And if you treat very quickly, you get less damage to normal tissue for the same damage to the tumor than you do if you treat slowly. It's a bottleneck and limits the number of treatments that can be done, which limits access to care in the developing world and is just, it's cost. So how do we solve this? We're going to cure cancer in a flash. We are doing ultra fast radiation therapy treatments. They're 400 times faster than today. We will treat in a fraction of a second instead of several minutes. And when you do that, there isn't time for the tumor to move around. We take an image, boom, treat, you're done. So we can treat small volumes, spare more normal tissue. We get to take advantage of the better radiobiology. So we'll get better outcomes because we can do less damage to normal tissue from radiobiology point of view. And it's a more efficient treatment. We expect to get at least twice as many patients per machine than the current radiotherapy treatments. So how do we do this? I mean, it's 400 times faster than today. Wow. Well, it took a breakthrough in linear accelerator design that came out of the SLAC National Accelerator Lab. And with that breakthrough in linear accelerators, we can deliver 30 times more beam current out of the accelerator than anything that can happen with a radiotherapy machine today. And instead of one linear accelerator, we're putting 16 linear accelerators in a ring around the patient and focusing all the radiation on the tumor all at once. There's no mechanical motion because mechanical motion is slow. And boom, you do the treatment. So here's an example. What you're looking at now is the current fastest radiotherapy treatment. This is a Varian's the market leader in radiotherapy. This is a TrueBeam machine doing gated rapid arc for a 25 gray lung cancer treatment. What you see is the accelerator is now at the bottom of the machine with the radiation coming up through the patient. The accelerator rotates around the patient so that the radiation can come in from all the different angles around the patient in order to spread it out on the normal tissue. And it just takes a long time to go deliver. This treatment will go on for 3.5 minutes. Now looking at the next video, don't blink. That's the Tiburay treatment. We're done. Third of a second to deliver that same 25 gray lung cancer treatment. There isn't time for the tumor to move at all. Get the radiobiological advantages, and it's clearly more efficient. So we have a great team. Running through the lower line of pictures, these are the 5 founders. 2 of them came out of the SLAC National Accelerator Lab. 3 of them came out of Stanford Healthcare. They got together and recognized that the breakthrough out of Dr. Tantawi's lab at SLAC in linear accelerators that he was doing for an entirely different reason could be used to solve this problem that we have in radiation oncology. They brought me in as the CEO a little less than 2 years ago because of my commercial background. I worked at Varian Medical Systems for 28 years, both in engineering and then running some of the businesses. So I've got both business and know how to do these kind of projects. And Arun Ganguly, our CTO, COO, the whole engineering team reports to her. She brings a strong imaging background and knows how to do this type of development work as well. We've got a great set of advisors who are helping us to stay on course and helping me to figure out how to, get money and do other things like that. We have lots of IP protected. Much of it came out of exclusive licenses that we have with Stanford for both broad and narrow patents, both US and ex-US. For one example of broad patent is the idea of treating radiotherapy patients with more than one accelerator. That's patented. We have exclusive license to do that. And then there are many other breakthroughs in technology that it takes in order to make this a cost-effective machine. And we've got a lot of coverage for all of those pieces as well. It's a $7 billion market growing at 6% per year. Unfortunately, it's going to continue to grow at 6% per year, just the demographics and the rate cancers going on. So it's a great market. And everybody in the chain in this market makes money. So yeah, there will be an opportunity to make money. Most likely we will exit through an acquisition, but we're running the businesses though. We got to do it on our own. It's worth it. This is an incredible breakthrough. So kind of recapping, why we're doing this, because the need is huge. 1 out of 2 and 1 out of 3. We have the technology. We uniquely have the technology. We can do this very, very fast treatment and take advantage of being able to freeze tumor motion. and do take advantage of the flash biological advantages. We will be able to treat more patients. We've got the right team to do it. We're going to save a lot of cancer patients' lives. And in the process, disrupt a strong, profitable market. Thank you.
This is the point of the show where we call everybody back on stage. So we have Jeff, we have Will, and we have Mark Francis. I'm calling it an inquisition. Mark Francis is not going to call it an inquisition, more of a gentle gathering of sorts. But stay tuned and listen to the discussion.
Well, thank you, Jeff and Will. And today, it's not really a full-on inquisition. It's going to be more of a gentle inquiry. And I actually want to start with a first question of Jeff, because we're going to, about the market. Your first penetration, the first time you will have one operating will be 2026?
Yes. It's a 4-year development project to go design and build this machine. I would love to have it go faster than that, but it will take that long.
Right. And Will, in your case, you already have a few operating, but you're not going to ramp up significantly, likely, in terms of number of units until 2024. Is that right?
Yes, we will be doing more installs, but we to capture some of the mainstream market, the laggards, especially with the disruptive technology like ours, will need a little more publications under our belt to get past those lead adopters.
Right. And I'm going to return at some point to that theme, but it'll be about the challenges of dealing with change with human beings. But first, I want to ask each of you, Jeff and then Will, talk about the aha moment. Now, Jeff, you weren't there when the aha moment happened, but I'm sure that you were aware. And what was done next after the aha moment?
Okay, so I can tell you, when I was working at Varian, Dr. Liu at Stanford Healthcare was coming to us and saying, we need faster treatments. We need faster treatments. Why can't you get faster beam out of a true beam? We did everything we could. We were technologically limited. And then when Dr. Liu ended up talking to Sami Tintawi at Slack, Sami said, oh, we can solve that problem for you. We have a real breakthrough that they were doing for an entirely different reason. So the two of them got together and said, wow. So then they talked to the rest of their teams and the other founders and went through this whole process of building out how that would work, what that technology could look like, all those pieces, getting the patents in place, doing all of that work, and then brought me on to actually start the execution. So
the story that I'll tell is actually from Raj Shekhar, who was a professor at the time at the University of Maryland Medical School. This was before I had actually joined his team. And he had been doing image processing research for a number of years as a principal investigator there. And he tells the story of being invited over to sit in on an ablation, on an interventional procedure. And the clinician who was running the procedure saw his CT images and was in the situation, just like I talk about in my slide, where the lesion was invisible. And he broke scrub. He, took off his gloves. He went down the hallway and went to nuclear medicine, which is where the PET image actually resided, and stared at the PET image for a while and then walked back to the room with the patient on the table all the while. And Raj was dumbfounded that this was the workflow, because it was so important for him to be able to see that pre-procedural image. And after the procedure, of course, the clinician said, look, you do image processing, like, fix this. I can't believe I have to do this in order to treat these patients. Now, of course, things have gotten a lot better in the meantime. We don't have to actually walk down the room. Hospital networks are more sophisticated and can actually show it in the room. But that was kind of spoke to how much they wanted these other images made available to them during these procedures, how important it was that he was willing to add all this time. And so we kind of knew that if we could pull it together into a package that was easy for people to use, that it would provide a lot of clinical value. And that's kind of where we put our focus with all of the knowledge that we have in medical image processing, and to really see what we could do. And, fortunately, it's kind of been a success story since then, in that we have these sites now that are not only not having to walk between rooms, but they can actually see those overlays accurately on their procedural images. So.
Okay, good. Now let's talk about the patients for a moment, and some psychology around that. People are terrified of radiation because of everything they've seen and heard. They don't think about it as much, but if you tell them you're going to apply heat, which I believe is what ablation is, right, Will? It's heat as opposed to radiation, intense heat.
That's right.
So they're pretty scared of this. Now, one thing that I found interesting, and I've learned actually at US Angels, is that tumor cells are more sensitive to heat and more likely to be killed by heat than normal cells. And recently I had read that the same is true with radiation. Tumor cells are more likely to die for whatever reason than normal cells. But people are still pretty afraid, and you're talking about intensity. Both of you are talking about intensity. And is this an issue for people? Are they concerned at 400 times more radiation in one blast, for instance? Is that in fact safer for each of you?
So the 400 times is the same amount of radiation in a fraction of the time, not more total radiation, unless we can decide, the clinician decides to increase the dose. So they're not getting more radiation. Your point about patients and being fearful of radiation is very real. It's a major thing that clinicians have to spend a lot of time with patients on. It's, yes, you're getting radiation. The good news here is this: by doing it quickly, it does less damage instead of more damage. And so that will be part of a better story for patients. But yeah, the fear part is very real.
Yeah, and I think when you've got cancer, lots of things are scary. Fortunately, I don't know this firsthand, but I have interacted with a number of people in the situation, and certainly a lot of these treatments, chemotherapy is scary. I think what ablation has going for it is that you are, essentially you're energizing the tip of a needle. In some cases, you are actually freezing. Sometimes you're using electrons. There are some different ways of doing the ablation, but ultimately it is killing tissue inside your body, which I can understand the prospect. Now, but when you consider the other alternatives, to have to do either radiation, as Jeff was mentioning, or to go through surgery, which is actually the most common way, those are, not great. Those are equally, if not more, scary options. And I think when presented with the option to be able to say, well, look, the ablations themselves are typically outpatient. You can go home that day. That's a big deal for a patient, and really complication rate for interventional radiology is much lower, as you might imagine. Instead, you've got one big needle going in, but you're not actually opening up the patient in any way. And so the fact that the complication rates are lower and the fact that your recovery times are much faster, I think in the end is a more appealing option when presented with, what is out there for patients.
Very good. Now let's go, Will and Jeff, to the issue of the psychological hurdles with the professionals that you're dealing with. So what are the psychological hurdles that you're facing?
Yeah, in terms of adoption, right? I think change for a lot of people is not an attractive thing to be doing. The routines and the workflows are well established, and perturbing them in any way, just exposes more hassle. Somebody forgets how to do something, someone skips a step because, it's not the usual way they do it. And all of a sudden it is, something that is usually simple is now much more complicated, and nobody wants that. One of the reasons that some of our competitors that are already in the market have not gained more traction is because they actually have a significant burden on workflow. They require clinicians or techs to spend a lot of time at whatever system it is in order to get the kind of functionality they want. And so what we have really tried to hone in on is to have as minimal an impact on their current workflow as possible. In fact, I like to think of IGT Fusion as not a workstation, but as more of a smart monitor, a thing that's sitting on the side and just providing you some extra information as you were doing your procedure anyway. And so it's that very careful, working within existing workflows that we have really tried to tailor ourselves to minimize the potential obstacles of presenting change to a clinician who's using it.
Yeah, I can echo what Will was talking about in terms of the difficulty of change. I've seen cases where you can bring clinicians something that's a better treatment, but because of the change, they just won't adopt it. In this case, for us, we have the good fortune that we're really not changing the overall radiotherapy workflow much. The basic flow stays the same. The part that they're uncomfortable with is if you're treating over 3.5 minutes, you can feel like you might be able to catch something that's going wrong before you hurt the patient with it. And when you're treating in a fraction of a second, there's no intervention you're going to do. It has to be a completely automated intervention. A big red button to push emergency off. The comfort that goes with that isn't there anymore. So that's something we are spending a lot of time on, trying to make sure that we get that part to be bulletproof so we can make everybody comfortable with it.
Interesting. So you've both actually covered my next question, which is the protocols. So finally here, what is the biggest educational hurdle you will have that you foresee on an ongoing basis? So you've made the sale, and now there has to be the in practice usage. What's the biggest educational challenge, Jeff and Will?
Yeah, and this one isn't hypothetical for us because this is kind of what we've been learning over the past 2 years getting it deployed in clinic. And it is the training of technologists. That has been the biggest thing. I have interacted with, in my academic career and my professional career, a lot with clinicians. So I'm very comfortable, with presenting to them and knowing what their capabilities are and what their interests are. But technologists, who are those kind of, people who are in the room supporting the procedure, are from a totally different walk of life. And so being able to figure out what works for them in terms of training, in terms of remembering the things they need to do in order to just get the system up and running for a particular case, those have been what we've really been focused on at that particular level. So that's been really educational, really a lot of great learning these past couple of years.
That's very interesting. For us, the therapists, we call them, the people who actually, turn the machine on and do that work, they're the ones who are going to be the most uncomfortable with the change that we're making. And so, like Will was talking about, that's where we will need to spend a lot of time to make sure that we can get them well-trained and comfortable with what they're doing.
Very good. So that was the penultimate question. In closing, tell us what your next milestone / hurdle will be, and when you think that we can hear more about you having achieved that, Jeff and Will.
Yeah, so we are very close to having this very high power beam come out of an accelerator. That's next. As soon as we have that beam coming out of an accelerator, and that will happen in the next few months, we're all going to breathe a big sigh of relief once that happens.
And for us, as I was mentioning, it's this outcome study. We'll, of course, keep doing installs and keep pushing revenue in other ways. But we've gathered so much anecdotal data. We have a couple publications that speak to the fact that basically a small sample size where we can show the efficacy of the system, but it's really getting that larger study done that will have the p-values that we need in order to make some strong claims about our efficacy, interventional radiology's efficacy when using our product compared to something like surgery. And that is a big deal for us. That's going to be something that'll take us from, being, enhancing existing procedures to bringing in a whole new wave of potential procedures to interventional radiology. So that's what we're looking forward to next.
Thank you very much, Will and Jeff. And for our listeners, this is one aspect of precision medicine, which is coming our way. And we're going to talk about more aspects of precision medicine in subsequent Tech Tuesdays. Thank you very much, Will and Jeff.
Thank you to our presenters, Jeff Amaker, CEO of Tiburay Inc., Will Plishker, CEO of IGI Technologies. Thank you to our moderator, Mark Francis, and to the people behind the scenes, such as Anil Mall, James Black, and Melissa Robertson. Lastly, I'm going to thank John Ritchie and the good folks at US Angels for not only, again, supplying a plethora of companies, very, very good companies, good technology, which helps keep shows like this running. Go to these websites and learn more about them and their projects. If you have a lead for them, please do connect. May you have continued success in expanding your business, and we'll see you next week.